Hi guys, I've been thinking about doing a full update on how I'm going with the carnivore diet, and then I realised that it has been 550 days that I've been eating this way, and so I thought what a perfect time to actually do this. So this video might be a little bit of a longer one, hopefully not too long, because I want to get outside and out to the workshop and make some jewellery. I haven't done that for a little while. I don't know if I've actually mentioned that I make jewellery on this channel before, but yeah, I do. Hubby and I both do. And I'll show you a couple of pendants that he made at the end of this video, which are pretty cool, that he made yesterday. I do bits and pieces like my earrings, I made those. And this pendant, I actually had to rebuild this. So my friend gave me this a few years ago, and I wore it and wore it every day for years. And the whole thing fell to bits. And so probably just a few months ago, it had sat in the drawer for about a year or so. So it's a labradorite. It's absolutely stunning, stunning stone. And it sat in the drawer for probably about 18 months before I finally got the inspiration to remake it. It was quite a challenge for me because I'm not a professional jeweler by any stretch of the imagination, and neither is hubby. What we make is more kind of pieces for people who like things a little bit rustic and like to make a bit of a statement. So this stone was a wee bit of a challenge the way it was cut for me, but I managed to do it, and so that was my end product, which I was pretty happy with. So anyway, I'm going to go out and make some jewellery after this. So, but let's talk about the carnivore diet, where I'm at, and what my results have been so far with everything. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I've got quite a list of notes here. You might want to grab a cuppa if you want to watch this whole thing, because as I said, I think it might take a little while to get through this. But so 550 days. For anybody who hasn't been to my channel before, I decided to try the carnivore diet for 30 days, and that was on the 31st of May 2022. And 18 months later, I'm still here and getting pretty good results. I'm still a work in progress, but lots has happened. So let's have a look. So my latest videos have been pretty much all focused on my gut health, which is still an issue for me. So I've been focusing on curing SIBO, because I've decided that has been my problem after doing a lot of research. If you go back and look at my videos, you'll see why I've come to that conclusion. And I'm pretty sure I'm getting some good results, although the last couple of days I've had a little bit of nausea and stuff, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But my bowel is really good, and my bowel was a huge problem. So I've done a few videos on that just recently. I've just done a video on spirituality and eating meat. If you're interested in that, go and check that one out. And so let's have a look at the symptoms that I had before I started on the carnivore diet. So I had a whole lot going on. I had symptoms pretty much in every system of my body almost. My biggest issues pre-carnivore were my weight. My weight has been an issue for most of my life, and the last 8 years that we've been in New Zealand, I have been way more overweight than I had been for probably about 20 years. I had a big weight problem when I was in my late 20s until I was 30, and then I've kind of kept my weight fairly well managed until 8 years ago when we came back to New Zealand. And so my heaviest since we've been back in New Zealand was about 108 kilos. I think it might have actually gone up a little bit higher than that. I can't honestly remember. I have a real thing about my weight, and so I tend to block out, I think, some of the bad stuff as time goes on. Is that mental? Maybe not. I think it might be. But so that's about 240 pounds. I also have suffered with IBS diarrhea for decades, off and on, but in recent years it's been pretty much continuous. And I had kind of got to the point where I was really worried about losing control of my bowel. I was aware of my bowel all the time. There was always feeling there, and just kind of discomfort, I guess, there. And so that in turn created a lot of anxiety. Anxiety's been a thing for me since I was a child, but then that was creating more anxiety and more stress in my life because, you know, I run my own business and I'm working with clients, and being aware of my bowel all the time and worrying about having to go back and forth to the toilet was just a kind of daily stress that was there all the time. So the anxiety and stress, so I had a lot of inflammation and pain in my body. I had a lot of muscle pain and tendon pain and that sort of thing. I was having sleep issues, having trouble getting to sleep, having trouble staying asleep. I was having blood glucose issues, so we bought a blood glucose monitor so that we could check our glucose, because hubby's parents were both diabetics and I've got diabetes in my family as well. And so what I was finding, especially over the last 12 months before Carnivore, was that my blood glucose was kind of averaging. It wasn't doing huge spikes as such, but it was kind of averaging over 7 millimoles. Is it millimoles? Yeah, per litre, which is about 135 milligrams per decilitre. So that was kind of where it was sitting most of the time. And then, of course, it would go up from that after 8 and then back down to there. But it was too high. I would probably, if I'd been tested at that stage by a GP, I probably would have been pre-diabetic, I would say. And my blood pressure was also doing weird stuff. So my blood pressure historically had been low, and so my blood pressure was doing this weird thing where the systolic was getting higher and the diastolic was getting lower. So the gap in between was getting wider. And when I looked into why that happens, it's something that happens sometimes as people age, and it's because the blood isn't getting up to the heart the way that it should be, from my understanding anyway. So that was happening. I was also quite concerned because I was having this real pounding heart at night time. Sometimes it would happen while I was up still at night time, sitting on the couch, but it was really noticeable when I went to bed, and it was feeling like it was going to do something that wasn't good, you know, and it would stop me from getting to sleep, and I couldn't ignore it. And so I would quite often roll onto my left side. If I was lying on my right side, it was more noticeable. And then if I rolled onto my left side, it would kind of settle a bit. So even though my right side has been kind of habitually where I slept most of the time or would go to sleep, I ended up having to sleep on my left-hand side to get rid of that real pounding feeling that my heart was doing. I also had vertigo off and on for years, and that all started with a fairly big stress event in 2008 that I might do a video about sometime. And I was getting dizzy spells pretty much daily prior to going on to Carnivore. So the dizzy spells had started probably in the 12 months or so prior and had become more and more regular. And I was wondering if they were to do with my blood pressure and what was going on there, but they were kind of quite scary. I was also getting nosebleeds every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and my digestive system was just constantly inflamed and sore. So my digestive system had kind of been like that for years. If I pushed anywhere in my abdomen, it was always tender to touch, and there was inflammation there. So other issues that were probably a little bit less of a concern, but were there was, or maybe I wasn't as worried about them. They weren't as affecting my life quite as much, I suppose, was that my cognitive and memory were just not what they used to be. And I was having trouble focusing and that sort of thing. I was having a lot of skin issues, so rashes, itchy skin, and redness, like I had eczema around my nose that would come up. I'd had problems with itchy arms off and on for years, and I knew that was to do with gut health because it actually resolved at one point after taking a probiotic, and was gone for quite a few years, and then it started coming back again. Now I'm thinking that was probably histamine due to my gut health, and I think that particularly now, because I had a histamine rash a few months back, and even once the rash had gone, this left arm that used to give me a lot of grief with the itching even years ago was the one that was still itchy. When there was nothing to see, it was still itchy for quite a while after that rash went away. So I'm picking that that's what that was. So the other things that were going on for me were constant herpes outbreaks that were becoming more and more regular. Swollen glands. So swollen glands was something that I've had for years. Probably even in my 30s, my glands would swell up a lot. Eyesight issues. My eyesight was deteriorating lots, and I have posterior vitreous detachment, which is where the vitreous, which is the gel in the eye, is coming away from the back of the eye. And so at night time when it's dark, if I move my eyes, I see these lights flashing, and that had got worse over the years as well. I have suffered always with edema, right since I was a teenager, off and on, where my feet swell, my ankles swell, and especially in the humidity. And I was also having problems with chest tightness, nasal congestion, and a cough, and having to clear my throat all the time. So that's all of the stuff that I can think of that was going on, which is quite a list. Now, pre-carnivore, I have to say this, I was not on your standard junk food diet. I haven't eaten the standard junk food diet for a long, long time. I used to when I was a lot younger, but pre-carnivore, I was eating a mostly organic and homegrown diet. We cooked just about everything at home. We pretty much very rarely had any kind of takeaways or fast food. The only kind of packaged foods, we didn't buy a whole lot. We'd buy a few tins of things like tinned tomatoes and coconut cream, and beetroot sometimes. Trying to think what else. Tinned fish, which I ate very occasionally, but not a lot. Our diet was pretty clean and pretty good. The failings in it were having some hot chips occasionally if we were out, and so you got the seed oils and stuff on those. I generally avoided seed oil, so when I was buying anything that was packaged, like if I bought hummus or things like that, I would check the ingredients and avoid seed oils where I could, and I avoided added sugars where I could as well. Like I very rarely ate anything with any kind of processed sugar in it. I did eat things like dates and honey and stuff like that though. And so my diet, by most people's standards, was pretty healthy, and yet my health was deteriorating. So I also had quite a few years of fairly full-on mold exposure in the building where I had my business when we came back to New Zealand. So I was actually in that building, in those same rooms when we lived here last time for 4 years, and I don't know whether the mold affected my health then. It may have, but not to the same extent. I guess coming back 8 years later, going back in there, and I was in there for 4.5 years this time, and just having, probably being older and having less, being less healthy, I guess, it really affected me. And it was after I'd been in there for a year that I just piled on a whole lot of weight, and then things started really going haywire with my health. So the mold exposure was a biggie. And then even once I moved out of there, the house that we were renting, that we've just moved out of, so we've just moved into this house 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. The house that we were in, although it was a nice house and it had been renovated and everything, the windows in that house used to really run in the winter badly, and they would grow mold on the rubbers and on the handles of the windows, even in the summer. And so there was still that kind of constant mold exposure, I guess. And so I was trying to move past that, but because we were living in that house, we were in there for 5.5 years, that was an issue as well. So I'm quite glad that we've moved now. This place here that we're in seems to be really dry. Haven't seen any evidence of any kind of mold or anything like that. So So the mold exposure, the stress event also that I mentioned in 2008, that was almost a year of really full-on stress that pushed me into early menopause. So I was 44, and I did 2 pregnancy tests that year because I just wasn't getting my period and thought that I was pregnant, might have been pregnant, but it was stress. We'd bought a business, and that turned out to be a bad decision, and the people that we bought it off basically ripped us off, and it's quite a long story, and as I said, I might do a video about that soon and talk about that, but because I think that me talking about it online would probably be a good thing for me, whether anybody watches it or not. So that kind of kicked off a whole lot of stuff for me as well. So I feel like I'm still trying to get past the health problems that started back then in 2008. So it's been a long time. So all right, so what's changed since Carnivore? All right, so let's talk about the good stuff. So as I said, my heaviest since I've been in New Zealand this time in the last 8 years was about 108 kilos or so, maybe a little bit more. I am down over 16 kilos all up, and down about 8 or 9 kilos since I've been on Carnivore. I have also gone down 2 dress sizes, or 2.5 dress sizes really, which is pretty cool. And my weight loss has been really slow, but I think that the stress from the diarrhea and stuff and my anxiety is playing a part in that, because it's harder to lose weight if you're stressed and your cortisol levels are high. So now that I'm getting my gut sorted out, hopefully my stress levels will go down, and then it hopefully will make it easier for me to lose weight. We will see. Prior to Carnivore, I was doing some intermittent fasting, and off and on, and I did keto for a couple of months, and so some of the weight had already come off prior to me starting on Carnivore, and then my weight actually went up when I started on Carnivore initially, and then it's come back down again, and it's just moving down very slowly, and I'm getting smaller very slowly. So I am stronger. That's one of the things that I noticed fairly quickly once I started eating this way, was that I started to get more muscle and more strength back, which was really cool and unexpected, because I wasn't doing any exercise. I mean, my job can be kind of physical because I do massage and stuff, but I mean, I've been doing that for years. But yeah, all of a sudden I started growing more muscle, which was super cool. Now I have less body fat, and my visceral fat has gone down. So I have a really cool set of scales that measure a whole bunch of different things. That measures, you can program it with your age and your sex and everything and your height, and then it gives you all of these readings. So it tells me my weight and my body fat percentage. It tells me the weight of my skeleton, my hydration levels, my metabolic age, and my basal metabolic rate, and it tells me where my visceral fat is at. So my visceral fat was sitting at around 16, and now it's sitting down, it's kind of varying between 12 and 13. So 12 and under is a healthy range according to the scales. So less is better with visceral fat, and but the fact that it's coming down is really cool, and that's just happened in the last, it's come down more just in the last few weeks, so I was quite excited to see that. Yeah, the great thing with the scales is that even though they might not be 100% accurate, you know, with your body fat levels and all the rest of it, they let you see the trend when things are moving down or moving up. So they let you see what's actually kind of going on. So I will, I'll link to those scales below if you want to check those out, because they're a handy tool to have if you are wanting to kind of monitor your progress a little bit more. So neurological wise, so I'm going to go through the neurological stuff that was going on with me. So as I said, I had a bit going on there. Now the dizzy spells have mostly stopped. I get the occasional one. It happened the other day, and I think sometimes it's when I get a bit stressed, or I kind of, it's like I almost forget to breathe sometimes when I'm working. I don't know whether it's that or what the cause was, because it happened as a client was leaving the other day, and I was standing there talking to him, and next thing it came on, and I had to hold on to the door frame just to kind of steady myself. And they only last, you know, maybe 60 seconds or a couple of minutes at the most, and then it all just kind of settled down again. But it's only probably happening maybe every 6 weeks or so now. It's become less and less. And my cognitive function and memory are definitely a whole lot better as well, and my ability to focus and write. I'm back to writing some blog posts, which on my website, and it's coming easier, which is really cool. And my motivation is better most days, not all days, but most days. So the heart pounding thing, that stopped ages ago. I don't get that anymore, which is really cool. My blood pressure is fantastic. Every time I take it, it's 120/70 or less. It really goes above that, and that separation between the systolic and diastolic isn't there anymore. My blood glucose levels are great. I had some blood tests done recently, and I did a video about that, so if you want to check that out, it's quite a few videos back now. I guess I've had 2 lots done. But my HbA1c was 5.4, which I'm fairly happy with. I'd like it to be a little bit lower, so we'll see what happens next time I have blood tests done. And my resting heart rate, which was sitting around 80, 85 beats a minute, is now 65 to 70 most of the time, which is really cool. I'm much happier with it there. I wasn't happy about my resting heart rate going up either. So pain-wise, I still get a bit of pain in my body, off and on. I have sometimes where I have pretty much none, and then sometimes where I have more. I think some of that is to do with oxalate dumping. My flexibility is a lot better in my ankles and my joints, where things used to be quite tight and stiff. My shoulders are so much better. I'd had problems with my shoulders for quite a few years, and they were getting worse and worse and worse. They were really tight and sore, and it wouldn't take much to upset them. You know, if I tried to do some push-ups or something, I would injure myself, and then I'd end up, you know, with frozen shoulder and have to try and work on it or go and see somebody to get it sorted. And they were a pretty constant problem for probably the last couple of years prior to going on to Carnivore, and they just aren't even a problem now. Occasionally that I'll get little bits of pain in them, which I think again might be oxalate dumping. It tends to be more mostly in the AC joint that I'll get that these days. But yeah, it doesn't last long. It might last for a day or so, and then it's gone. But yeah, so I was getting a lot of pain in my joints and my hands and my wrists, and that's all gone as well. I get very little pain in them. I have tendonitis in this right wrist that I had for years, and I don't know whether you can see there's a lump there. The lump is still there, but I don't really have any problem with that anymore. It was quite bad for a period of time and I ended up with trigger thumb, which is where the tendon, when things are relaxed, the tendon kind of gets stuck in the sheath through in here, and then it's very painful when you try to stretch it back out again, and that was quite bad for a while, and it was all to do with this tendonitis in my wrist. But yeah, that's not even a problem anymore, and as I said, the lump's still there. The lump kind of goes up and down, but the inflammation doesn't happen so much. Sometimes a little bit, but not much at all. It's gradually getting better. I also had this really random thing that happened to my hand a few years ago, where I was carrying some really heavy plastic shopping bags, like quite a number of them in one hand, and the straps were going across my hand, the handles, and it felt like it had torn in under the skin. There was nothing to see, but it felt like it had torn it, and it was really painful. If I touched it, it felt like I was touching an open wound, basically. And that was like that for years. And then all of a sudden, it's come out. Weird things happen on Carnivore. It's come out in this little tiny lump, and the pain inside isn't there anymore. So, and the lump's kind of going away. It almost looks like a little warty thing. So that's quite weird. It's healing, obviously. That's what I'm picking it's doing. Well, that's what I know it's doing, is it's healing. But what actually happened to it and what was going on, I've got no idea. But as I said, it felt like an open wound, even though the skin wasn't broken. Weird. My skin is lots better. I still get some red patchiness on my face every now and then. I'm still getting a few pimples here and there. I don't get the eczema around my nose anymore. That's completely gone. I had a rash on my lower back that I'd had for quite a few years, and that's all gone. It was all kind of just spotty, lumpy. It's all gone. I had some spots on my shins, itchy kind of spots on my shins that have been there for about 7 years, and they're just about gone. They don't get itchy anymore, and they're just about gone as well. The liver spots on my hands are pretty much gone. The herpes outbreaks are very occasional now and don't happen very often. And the other thing that was happening was that my face would burn really quickly in the sun, and that doesn't happen anymore. I can go out in the sun and do stuff and be out there for a few hours and it doesn't burn, which is awesome, because I've always had quite good skin in the sun, and for some reason I'd be out there for 5 or 10 minutes and my face would be scarlet and burnt, and I'd have to wear a hat all the time because otherwise it would just burn really, really quickly. I'm figuring that was down to oxalate as well. Somehow I think oxalate can cause your skin to burn more, and that's my thought, is that was to do with oxalate. So my sleep is good. My sleep quality is a lot better. I fall asleep easily most of the time now. When I was having problems with histamine, I was having problems falling asleep for a little while there, but that all seems to have settled down with my focus on my gut health, and so I fall asleep pretty quickly and I sleep quite well. I still have to get up to go to the toilet sometimes once during the night. Depends on how much I've had to drink before I go to bed, because I've got a habit of guzzling down a litre of water after dinner and then having to go to the loo. But if I don't do as much water, then I'm fine. I go right through to the morning. The nasal congestion is a lot better. I still get a bit, but nothing like I used to, because it used to be really constant. My body temperature regulation is a lot better. I don't feel the cold anywhere near as much as I was, and it doesn't bother me, even if it is cold, as much as it was. And the heat doesn't seem to bother me as much either. I notice in the sauna that I can stay in there longer, because even though it's hot, it's not driving me nuts, whereas before in the sauna I'd have to really make myself stay in there because the heat would really start to get to me. My energy is lots better, as I said, and I'm starting to feel like exercising off and on, which is cool. And the nosebleeds are very rare. I still get them occasionally. I realised over time that they were to do with oxalate dumping, and so when I was oxalate dumping, that's when I'd get them, always on this side. And that is obviously, I think, as I've said this in a video before, I think for some reason I had a lot of oxalate stored up in my head, and so that's why it was affecting the skin on my face. It was causing the nosebleeds. It was possibly causing the dizzy spells as well, and also I've got having issues with my scalp, which I'll talk about in a minute, and I think that's to do with oxalate as well. And the other thing is that my glands don't swell up anymore. Very rarely. Sometimes get a little tiny bit, but nothing like they used to. Now, the things that I'm still working on, my gut health. So, as I said, I feel like I'm getting somewhere with my gut. I haven't had any diarrhea for weeks, and I'm working on correcting SIBO, and it seems to be working. But as I said, I'm still, like the last couple of days, I've had a bit of nausea and stuff, and I'm just not sure whether I'm doing something wrong or whether it's just part of the process. I'm wondering if I'm having too much prebiotic fibre, so I might adjust that over the next few days and see what happens. Either that, or it's because I've been drinking coffee every day, and that might be upsetting things, because it does that with me. And because it wasn't, because my gut was being pretty good, I just was taking advantage of that and having one every day, and so I might have to stop doing that. I have a couple of verrucas on one of my feet, which I'm trying to get rid of. They've been there for years, and I kind of kept thinking if my immune system is functioning properly, then they should just go, but that's never happened, and so I'm using some different bits and pieces to try and get rid of those at the moment. And I have like fibrosis in the fat on my belly, and a couple of lipomas, and so it's getting less, and the lipoma size goes up and down, but I'm waiting for the day when that all kind of disappears, hopefully, but they're still there at the moment. The new things that have happened since I've been on Carnivore is the scalp issue. So I didn't have a scalp issue when I started on Carnivore, and it was probably about 6 months in when that started, and it has been diabolical. It has been so itchy and flaky and embarrassing, because it's just like this massive snowstorm all the time. And if I wear a lot of dark, cardigans and stuff, and I'm trying to be mindful all the time not to scratch, because otherwise my shoulders and my back are just covered in all this white skin. I think it is to do with oxalate, and so it's gradually becoming on less of my scalp. So it was my whole scalp, and my scalp felt like it was covered in sandpaper for quite a long time, and little bits of hard what must be oxalate crystal come out of my scalp, and it's not clear. I had oxalate crystal come out of my chest a while back, and I did a video about that, and I still get some 1 or 2 crystals every now and then that come out on my chest, and they're clear, whereas the stuff on my scalp is like little tiny they're hard bits of stuff, but they're not clear, they're white. So, but I'm picking that it's oxalate coming through my skin, and what's happening is gradually it's moving, so it's still a little bit flaky up here, but it's not real itchy. The only itchiness now is across the base of my skull, so it's like it's gradually moving down, and the base of my skull still gets really lumpy and itchy, and it's really flaky, and it gets kind of scabby as well, and I sit there and pick at it, and I shouldn't, but I can't help myself. So yeah, but it feels like it's gradually getting better. I actually had a couple of weeks, just a couple of weeks ago, where it really all settled down, but then it flared back up again. So I'm pretty sure it's oxalate. I've tried all sorts of different stuff to try and help it and manage it, and nothing seems to make any difference. I've tried different shampoos, and I'm using rosemary oil on my scalp at the moment when I wash my hair. I've used safe shampoos without SLS and stuff and harsh chemicals for years, so it's not that. And I've tried using antifungal essential oils and CDS spray and different things on there in case it's a fungal thing. No, didn't make any difference. I've tried eating more liver and stuff, supplements, liver capsules, in case it's nutritional deficiency, and nothing changes there either. So I think it's just something I have to let it ride out. I'm not into suppressing anything, so I'm not going to use anything that's going to suppress it, because I want my body to get rid of whatever it's trying to get rid of. So it's just something that I have to put up with. It's been about a year so far, and I'm hoping that it goes away soon. It feels like it might. It's just about, only it's about that much along the base of my skull now. That's the really gnarly piece. instead of being the whole of my skull, which it was initially. Another thing that's come on just in the probably last couple of months is little patches of like eczema stuff along my lower back, and it was just kind of a line of them across my sacrum. One patch on one side that was the biggest one, and then some smaller patches, and they're gradually going away too now. It's mainly the one bigger patch that's the problem now. Not a problem, but it's still there. Gets a bit itchy and it's kind of flaky, and again, I think it's just my body getting rid of stuff. I used to have a lot of inflammation over my sacrum for forever, like when I was younger, and it used to be really hard. I see it on other people too when I'm working on their backs doing massage, women in particular. And so I think that I don't know whether it's somewhere where toxins and things might be stored. I'm not really sure. But yeah, there's definitely something that goes on there for some people, and that was the case with me. And yeah, now I've got these little patches, but they are gradually going away. So that's where I'm at on day 550 on the carnivore diet. And as I said, lots of improvement, lots of things that have gone away, and then a few things that I'm still working on, and a couple of things that are kind of newish since I've been on carnivore, that I'm sure are on their way to resolving as well. So if you've got any comments, fire away below, and if you like the video, make sure to subscribe and like it and all the rest of it. And I thank you very much for watching. I'm going to show you Hubby's pendants now. These couple that he's made in the last couple of days. They're not everyone's cup of tea, but I think that they're pretty cool, and they are made from copper and beach stones from here in New Zealand. So this one here is quite big, and this is actually a piece of petrified wood that's in there that has, looks like it's got a bit of agate and stuff in amongst the petrified wood, or chalcedony or something. And so there's that one there. And then this one here, which is a very nice little piece of agate from the Coromandel, I think, this piece. Try to see if I can get the light on it so that you can actually see it properly. So yeah, that's a nice little pendant, that one there. And it's copper and just all quite rustic. Quite cool. So I'm going to go and I'm going to make some jewellery. Going to go and find something to play with out in the workshop, and I thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.